The second key process is really for the national leadership team. It is the connection between the strategic plan and your people capacity. Sometimes we'll talk about this as a leadership pipeline process. But if you sit down and do a strategic plan, you're thinking and you're praying, Lord, where do you want us to go? Where are the next places that we need to place teams? Where are the next leaders coming from that we need? And so that forward-thinking direction also has an implication on your people resources. What kind of leaders will you need to see that strategic plan realized? How many? Of what types? What kind of experience would they need? Who do we have? If we don't have enough, where do we go? What do we look for? These are all the questions that are part of national leadership teams' responsibility to think about how to fulfill the mission in their country. For a strategic plan to become reality, two things are needed: people and funding. Today I'm going to talk about the people side. So when you look at a map of your country, how much of that country has access to the gospel right now? What has God prompted you to take action on? Where is expansion most needed? And who are the people that could possibly take on that work? These are the strategic questions that leaders need to think about when they're thinking about sustainable leadership. I was visiting a leadership team in the Midwest some time ago, and part of their responsibility was to get to every campus in their region, and they had hundreds that they needed to do. So I asked them the question, how are you thinking about getting to these other campuses? And to my great surprise, they pulled out a sheet of paper, well, several sheets of paper, because we were still doing paper in those days, with a list of every campus in the region in order of priority to where they would place staff next. I was impressed. They had done some really hard work. They looked at every campus and determined that there were three critical factors that they wanted to consider: the size of the student population, the influence of the students upon graduation, and the sending history of the campus. And they were able to prioritize a list sequentially for where they would place staff next. What made it even more impressive was that after they showed me the campus list, they pulled out another sheet of paper with all their potential leaders listed, potential matchups for the campuses where their strengths and abilities would be best focused. And it was simply a matter of them staying in touch with those staff members, with their team leaders, to keep track of their readiness for those assignments. Now, it didn't work out like magic. That can sound like, oh, it would have been so easy. People are people, and they also have aspirations, so sometimes the matchup wasn't quite what the person was looking for, or the team wasn't ready for that person to leave that campus yet. But they had done the strategic work of identifying their priorities and looking at the leaders that they had. This is the essence of the leadership pipeline process and a great example of it. A similar story was told to me by one of my team members as he was visiting Francophone Africa. He and the LDHR leader there were visiting a national team. And as they talked about their strategic plan, they asked the question, where do you want to go next? They happened to be sitting in a room with a big map of the country. All of the ministry locations were currently marked. And as the team looked at the map, they realized all of the locations were in the south of the country, and the missional gap was in the north, and that's where they needed to go. So they began that conversation about, if we want to go north, where would we go first, and who might be able to do that kind of work. Wherever you are in the world, the principle is the same, of looking at where does God want us to go, and who has He given us that could possibly be sent there. Every country will need to determine the way to do that. The basic tools can be found at ldhr.org.